Firstly, Carmela Barbagallo from Cayuga Community College. She serves as the director of the ASAP program there, working with Carmela very closely in the replication work. So just delighted that she chose to participate today and to share more with us about adult learner engagement, particularly with a specific emphasis on supporting student parents, which I know she'll speak to. So looking forward to that conversation. Also, Jayna Betancourt, the advisor from Cayuga for the ASAP program, should also be joining us. So you'll also get a general overview of the ASAP program for those unfamiliar with it. As many of you know, the governor recently proposed in her executive budget to expand the ASAP ACE program across the state of New York. So now's a very opportune time to talk about some of the benefits of the program, but also just how it directly supports adult learners. So I'll stop there, and please, Carmela, take it away when you're ready. And if folks have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and Jennifer and I will review those. But I also know there will be time reserved at the end to do so as well. So thanks all for being here, and Carmela and Jayna, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Casey. Can everyone hear me okay, Jennifer? And is my screen maximized? I just wanted to check.
Yes, everything looks great.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Casey, for that introduction. And indeed, we do work very closely together. We're really thankful for your ongoing guidance for this exciting project that is our ASAP implementation. I will describe ASAP for anyone who's not familiar with it. And I want to just set the stage to say that myself and my colleague Jayna have both been here for about 1 year and 2 months at SUNY's ASAP project at Cayuga Community College. So we are relatively new. We don't consider ourselves experts in this topic, but we've learned a lot in the past year. And we continue to shape our program around what our students' needs are. And so we're happy to share that with you today, some of our experiences. If you don't know, Cayuga Community College is located, we have 2 campuses, and then we have a very strong online population. And so we have many students that are 100% online. They don't walk on to either of our campuses, but we do have a campus in Auburn, New York, which is just west of Syracuse. And it's located within Cayuga County. And then we have a second campus in Fulton, New York, just north of Syracuse. That's located in Oswego County, very close to SUNY Oswego, if you know where that is. And we will actually mention our partners there during this presentation. So at Cayuga Community College, I would say, especially being newer to the organization, that some of our hallmarks are our culture is very collaborative. So you'll see staff and faculty really working together. There aren't kind of borders between departments. We really work closely to resolve issues for students. And on our physical campuses, the atmosphere is very comfortable and nurturing. So that's my opinion, having worked at various other campuses. I'm really impressed by the way the staff interacts here, and I think all the better to support our student, and that's what leads to some of our success. If you aren't familiar with the ASAP or ACE programs, they help promising, motivated students earn their associate degree as quickly as possible. They're SUNY funded. Casey mentioned that they're part of the Transformation Fund, and they were recently mentioned as going in the governor's State of the State address. To be eligible for ASAP, a student must be Pell, or in this year they could be TAP eligible. They have to come in with less than 21 college credits, and that does not include classes taken during high school at the college level. They should start developmental courses immediately and continuously, and they should finish within 6 semesters. Students must also be a New York State resident, and at CCC, or Cayuga Community College, they should be in one of our approved majors. So what do the students get if they participate with the ASAP or ACE program? Personalized academic, career and personal coaching from the start of your time here through your degree completion. Our goal is to encourage retention and to help students get across that stage at graduation. Some of the benefits, there's many financial benefits in addition to the coaching. Students would get $150 for books each semester, $200 towards the cost of attendance fees, and each month students are given a $50 gift card for gas or food. So believe it or not, there's programs out there that offer more funding than what ASAP offers a student each semester, but that $50 gift card really brings the students in the door. And it's been a really interesting piece to see students like feel that little given reward at the end of each month. So students would get that 4 times a semester. In addition to, sorry about that, to those benefits, we also administer a privately funded grant from an organization called the Brightway Education Foundation. And this is a private donor that's interested in helping student parents. The student must be the primary caregiver of their child or children. And this fund helps students by covering the family share of their childcare costs. So students could theoretically pay $0 out of pocket for childcare. It makes an emergency fund available for unexpected issues or financial problems that come up that could deter a student from completing a semester. And it would cover tuition for summer and intersession course taking. And we've already had a great number of students really take advantage of that. So the program is, when I do my marketing and recruiting students, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's in addition to the financial benefits, we really get to know our students, just like many other support programs do, and we address issues not only with academics but the whole student. So adult learners, we consider adult learners as students 25 plus. And I want to just point out their motivation and how that might differ from someone who's just carrying on after high school and starting college. A lot of these students are coming back intentionally for a specific reason to get to the next step in their career. They might be switching careers. They have a specific job in mind. They're not just kind of doing the natural next step after high school. So there's been a lot of thought behind this. And in some cases, these students are extra motivated. They've tried life without a 2-year an associate's degree, and they feel that they need it. Some of our students are returning to education after raising a family. I've had various students. We have 140 students in our program here at CCC. I should have mentioned that. But some of them are taking over the family business. I think 3 of my advisees are here for that reason, or they're trying to get ahead in current roles. So we meet a lot with faculty, and Jayna and myself will pull them in when we're having issues with students. And so I've incorporated some quotes from some of the faculty on this campus about their thoughts about adult learners. And the chair of our social science and education and our business department shared this next quote. I'll let you kind of read that. So, and it kind of speaks to what I mentioned. These students tend to be highly motivated. They are coming back to school to try to unlock the next step in their career. So the student profile here at Cayuga Community College is many of our students overall on our campus receive Pell and TAP for funding. The modalities, I mentioned that we have a large online population, and so many of our students can only do online classes. Now that gets difficult for our institution to offer classes on our Auburn campus, Fulton campus, and then also online. And I will say that most of our summer or intersession classes, if not all of them, are offered only online. And then we have a lot of people working full time. I had a student in this morning that is a parent to 4 children, works 50 hours a week, and is attending full time after 8 years away. But we also have many of our adult learners that have cited that they're taking care of their parents. They're battling health concerns. We have multiple students battling cancer at this time and still attempting to complete their education, experiencing traumas, including domestic violence or housing instability. And I'll talk about that a little more in a moment. I think we really try to have a strengths-based approach to our adult learners. And part of our role is to pull out those strengths with our students. There's a lot of intimidation that our students mention to us, being an older learner than maybe some others. And I think they need help finding their voice. I think their strengths is that their life experiences contribute to what they can bring to the table in discussion in the classroom, and they can help educate other younger students about the world outside of college. Many of our students have overcome obstacles and exhibit pride to be taking classes. And I'm not going to give particular examples, but I can tell you that every week I have an adult student in my office that's just overcome so much in their life, and they just feel so honored to be here. So that's something unique to them. And I think that if we really focus on that aspect of what they bring to the table, and highlight it and acknowledge it, it really builds their confidence and encourages additional pride in what they're doing. A lot of adult learners have knowledge of the workforce, what it means to pay bills, manage a household. And so they take things very seriously, and they have kind of a big picture view of what life is. And they've gone through the stages of development that maybe some younger learners might not have. We have a quote from Kelly Rowley, our chair of media and the arts, and he's also a faculty member, teaching a lot of courses right now and working with students. And he talks about their depth of experience and motivation. Okay, some of the challenges. Another quote from Sheila Myers. Sheila does a lot of work with career readiness, and she does advising students and making schedules as well. And she cites that time is a barrier, given what each student is balancing. We did a survey this year of our student parent population from our Brightway program, and time was the #1 challenge that they cited. They just don't have time to complete everything. So keeping that in mind and just being available to students when they do need our help is something that drives us. Other challenges, I mentioned balancing responsibilities. I think the students who are only able to take classes online, it's convenient, and we're really happy we have that option for students, and it meets a lot of students where they are. But there's a lot of intimidation and fear around using technology for some of the adult student population. So it's kind of like one of the challenges we have that we see, of course, spike up at the beginning of the semester. So working on technology issues, and I'm going to mention this a little more later in the presentation, but having a good distance learning team has really helped our campus, and they're willing to really prioritize response times to students when we have peak times on campus. Imposter syndrome. So we've had a lot of students talk to Jayna and myself about the fact that they don't feel like they should be here. They don't feel confident in the classroom. They feel out of place. I even have a student in her kind of upper 20s that does work study for us, and she feels kind of out of place at her age. So I think campus partners and staff and faculty need to take that into account and find ways to engage students and get them involved so they can break down those walls. We've had a lot of students with transportation issues. So I mentioned earlier, ASAP does provide a $50 a month gift card for gas if a student chooses that gas over food. But in addition to having gas money, we have cars breaking down, and so one student's car was totaled, and I mentioned this recently, but she's taking the bus from Syracuse to Auburn. And Jayna mentioned this morning she has to be on 3 different buses each day. So there are a lot of transportation issues in upstate New York, especially during the colder months. I have another student who rode a motorcycle to school, and then in the winter months that went away, and he had to find a new form of transportation. Housing instability or food insecurity. We pull in our county resources to help students with these issues, but we have had students in a homelessness state. We work with other campus partners to try to resolve those issues as soon as possible, but it's something that I can't imagine not having a place to live, but still attending classes, and those students need immediate support. And another big challenge that we have cited is childcare. So in upstate New York, maybe Jayna can remind me of the term she used this morning, I think a childcare desert. Is that right, Jayna?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is the same across New York State, and you can be welcome to put that in the chat. But we find that having openings at childcare centers is just a huge challenge. So even if the student has gone through the Office of Children and Family Services process to get payment covered for childcare, then you might not find anyone to do it. Above and beyond finding availability, it's trusting resources. So I have students who just don't trust the local resources around here. Jayna, when you talk more later about those benefits, if you could touch more on like the childcare finding process, that would be great. So at this time, I wanted to ask all of you to share information, and we're going to do this a couple times during this presentation. But what do you think, from, if you could say your campus name, and then what the largest challenges that adult learners face? And you can take yourself off mute and verbally share it if you'd like as well.
Hi, my name is Anna Westerman. I work at SUNY Schenectady County Community College as an advisor. A lot of the issues we see is with technology, just not knowing how to use it or lack of resources at home. And I was just curious what you guys do to help students with that. Because like, even as simple as trying to get onto Brightspace and navigate Brightspace, which is the platform we use for online classes, can be a great challenge to students.
Jayna, do you want to talk about that a little bit? One of the things we do, you mentioned if people don't have technology, is we have a loan program for laptops. But to your point about how to guide them from a distance learning perspective.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that. So one of the things that ASAP kind of did at Cayuga was bring a spotlight to maybe some areas for growth or opportunities for change. And so one of the things that we did right out of the gate our first semester was we connected with our distance learning coordinator and talked about, hey, can you tell us more about Brightspace? Can you tell us the ins and outs? Cayuga is a campus. Unfortunately, we don't have the staffing to have an in-person help desk. So we use a 24-hour line that's staffed. But what we found and what we've been able to do in conjunction with our distance learning coordinator is we've done workshops as part of our ASAP program, and then expanded them out to the whole entire college of how do I access and navigate Brightspace. We've created pamphlets and step-by-step directions with pictures of how do I link my Pearson Math Lab through my Brightspace account, how we participate with Barnes and Noble and a lot of digital books in our Cayuga Bound program. And so we created a directive that gives students step-by-step, here's how you access your digital materials through Cayuga Bound in your Brightspace. We've also worked with faculty and professors to get permission to support students and really fostering that relationship. I am very aware that some colleges have policies in place about staff accessing Brightspace, and so we've really tried to partner with every single staff member on campus to say, hey, can we support the student, or how can we support the student, and what would you like that to look like, and really meeting the students where they're at. And we don't have a one-stop shop fix all. We still have adult learners who struggle, but through the process, we've started to build a knowledge base and a toolbox to be able to help these students and also equip any staff who might be faced with these questions with the resources to be able to support students.
Thank you, Jayna. And Jayna mentioned the workshop. So she designed this workshop ahead of our intercession. We were during intercession courses, they started the first day staff came back after our winter break. And so Jayna ran this session before we came back to work, which was amazing. And she wanted to give students the chance before the intercession started and then before the spring semester started to get tips on taking online classes and do it before the students kind of quote unquote got in the weeds with their semester, because that's a horrible feeling to lose a week due to access issues. Our campus this fall semester and maybe others had a lot of issues with Brightspace, and it really set the tone for the whole semester. So if you can offer these supports before the semester starts, and Jayna pointed out things like make sure you check your syllabus for how to respond to discussion posts. And like she mentioned, Pearson or other connected software through Brightspace, that takes a lot of time. And for an adult learner, I mean, I'm in my upper 40s myself, and I have my own challenges with technology, but we want to help students cross that bridge and feel as though they're supported. Corinne, you asked if we have help desk or in the library. I haven't mentioned yet, but Cayuga Community College has the most amazing Learning Commons team that's run through our libraries, and there are academic support. So if a student wanted to, while we don't have the help desk here for IT, we have tutoring available or writing and math tables where even though online support is not the sole purpose of it, we have students sitting down at these tables helping each other. We have tutors working through connectivity and technology issues with a student, and we have staff that are willing to solve these problems. And then I'm just gonna peek through the chat just a little bit more. Anyone else want to comment on that about being overextended on your campus? I echo being overextended. If anyone wants to, so Monica is saying childcare, transportation, technology. Yeah. Yeah. So the technology issues with this student group is going to be an ongoing issue. But I'm really proud of the distance learning support that we've had at CCC for being really timely in their responses to students. The woman who works here, and actually today is her last day, and so we're searching for a replacement, and that's not the best news right now, but she apologized to me last week for putting off my emails to put students first. Now, first of all, she has an immediate response time even with myself, but I was like, that's great. We want you to put the students first. And that's really the vibe that so many of our staff on this campus give off, and it's really effective. Yeah, so a lot of us are sharing really similar issues, and I really appreciate everybody sharing. I think we'll go back to some of those comments in a little while, and I'll continue with some more that we're doing here. So I mentioned the responsiveness of our distance learning team. Some of the other small supports we have in place is knowing that any student or any adult could be hungry at any given time. So Jayna and I try to stock our office. We have coffee at all times, and we try to have different snacks available, and of course plan food related events. We also have really nice wellness centers on our campus where they have massage chairs, first of all, but also they offer breakfast foods for students or snacks all day long when we have them. And we work with several local businesses to kind of bring some of the food in. But something really great is that our director of counseling in our wellness centers put out an email to the campus last week and said, these are some of the foods we could really use here. And I've seen staff coming in with, bags from the grocery store and bringing that in. And so in this day and age, I think with a lot of issues out in our communities, I think just solving that little problem or having snacks for when students bring their children in, it goes a long way for us. Every campus is probably connecting with their community partners, but I would say one of the biggest parts of Jayna and my experience in building this program and designing supports is that we are looking at the whole student. Definitely not just academics, but we are working with community connections to support everything the students need. I've mentioned a few times during this presentation about intimidation and fear within students with coping with their semester and succeeding in their academics. Sometimes if a student is eligible for a program like SNAP or the DSS childcare benefits or HEAP, they know they're eligible, but they just can't get themselves to the table to fill out that paperwork or to overcome their own fears about applying for these benefits. So we are doing that with the students, and we try to balance it, right? We try to help the student be self-sufficient, but we also try to bring those services to our campus or develop relationships with people off campus. So just this week, Jayna organized a SNAP-related workshop for our students that talked about the food bank of Central New York and talked about the application process and how students can get a support designate to help them go through the application process. And that was really interesting to me and helpful to some of our students. CCC does have a child care center, and our students have been eligible for some of what's called the SUNY Block Grant spot at that program. And then we've also had students who've gone through DSS to get childcare benefits that they can pay our childcare center directly, and then our Brightway grant will pay the family share. So if you're not familiar with this childcare benefit, the Office of Children and Family Services have streamlined the application process, put it online. In the last few years, the income levels for a family have been raised, so you can earn quite a good amount for a family of 1, 2, 3, 4 children, but also still receive childcare benefits. And then once you put in the application, it's relatively quick turnaround to find out if you're eligible for benefits. But each family almost always has a family share. And that's, in our experience, it's been anywhere from $0 a week to $10 a week. So it's affordable. But the Brightway grant makes it so students wouldn't have to pay anything, and they would get reimbursed for anything they do pay. And I think I've mentioned this too, having welcoming atmospheres, including family-friendly spaces on campus. So our librarians really push in and introduce themselves to students in classrooms and in workshops at the beginning of our semester, as well as our Learning Commons academic support. And our libraries, they make a point to say, you don't have to whisper in our library. You're welcome to feel comfortable. You can bring lunch in, you can eat and drink here. Our libraries always have free coffee, tea, hot cocoa, and sometimes snacks for students. It's a different form of library than when I went to college. And you should see our students' eyes light up when they know they can just, not have to tiptoe around and feel awkward in that environment. I mentioned our math and writing tables in those libraries. And I would say our two biggest partners on campuses are our Learning Commons and tutoring team, and then Student Financial Services, because all of these folks help us solve problems with students. And then we have another chair, Eric, mentioning that he really tries to mention at the beginning of a class that you do bring a strength as an adult learner. And we do want you to feel comfortable and not as an imposter or out of place by mentioning your life experiences. And it really can build the class and the environment here. So I'll talk for just a moment. Let me see my next slide. About pulling those things out of students. We've had a lot of students in our office that have felt really shy. They don't feel like, since they've taken some time off from school, that they belong here. And I think Jayna and I will spend a lot of time talking to students about what they do bring to the table, and then really focusing on the positive of small accomplishments. So last semester, I think maybe across SUNY, but definitely I will say at CCC, we had a lot of students kind of walk away in the middle of the semester. This semester, we want to make sure, and many of those were people we did have regular contact with, but life circumstances just stopped them from continuing. I think that we really try to highlight to our students, if you feel like you can't do this anymore, come in and talk. And even though we did have many students kind of walk away from the institution last semester, we also have a lot of students who persevered and who we could get in front of them and let them know that everybody has hiccups and you're always going to face like ups and downs in a semester, and we don't want you to throw in that towel. And it worked for a lot of our students, but I would say my theme of the beginning of this semester for my conversations with students is don't give up. Come to me first if you feel like throwing in the towel, and then really complimenting all their small accomplishments. Because these students, like I said, many are working full-time parenting, and just facing a lot. And I think we need to recognize their accomplishments. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jayna, and she's going to talk more about our relationship with community partners.
So one of the things that we've kind of found with supporting adult learners and traditional students as well is really the needs that these students have at the community college level, and all students face needs, but really working to build social capital with community partners. Who are your community partners? Knowing, Cayuga is surrounded, we have students from counties all throughout New York State. And really, there's 5 or so counties surrounding us that we pull a lot of students from, and knowing who are the point people in those counties, how does the things differ, and making community resources and campus resources a part of all support conversations. I remind students every single meeting, I have a list of all of the resources right in my office, and we talk about it. We remind students of our Office of Accessibility Resources and the supports that they offer, not just if you have, maybe you have a disability, but if it's winter, if you fall, if you slip, you break your wrist and you need notes, that's where you would go. Or if you have any questions about the supports that you might be offered, and creating those partnerships. And really the purpose of that is you've gotten your students' trust, and they confide in you and they come to you and you're kind of their point person. And so when you build those relationships, you really can provide a warm handoff and say, I don't have the answer, but I do know someone who can help you. Let's call them together, or let's reach out to them together. And then educating yourself on the process. So a lot of times DSS and Office of Children and Family Services, there's some hoops that you have to jump through before you can apply. There's a pre-screening process. There's questions that might be asked. And a lot of times these adult learners are intimidated by these resources, or there's a negative stigma to accessing these resources. And so kind of coaching them and preparing them with what to expect, and just knowing, hey, you're going to call this number and they're going to ask you some questions to determine your eligibility. And then they're going to ask you to do this, this, or this. And then knowing the people that if something happens or something comes up, having those connections to people who can provide more intense answers that you might not be eligible, like that you might not know, and meet students where they're at. So we've done a lot. ASAP requires students to attend workshops. So we've done a lot with our workshops to bring community partners to our students and to bring these resources to our students, because it's a great way for them to get their credit, their workshop program credit, but also you never know when a student is going to need that resource. And so we might put on a workshop on SNAP this semester, and that student might not need it, but they might come back in summer and something might change, and they might be like, hey, I watched that presentation on SNAP, but do you have the resource? I could totally use it. Carmela, can you go to the next slide? So then some of the other things that we do, and things that we do is we've introduced ourselves to our local OCFS and DSS caseworkers. We really partner with that because of our Brightway grant. We tend to have a little more intensive support. And so we can walk the student through the process or, work with the student to obtain the necessary consents to help kind of eliminate, what are they approved for and, what is our child care center offer and help bridge that gap and take some of that stress away from our students. Reaching out to surrounding counties to find out their outreach coordinators. We had our SNAP outreach coordinator come in yesterday and talk all about the SNAP process. So knowing, who are those people and having, the knowledge to say, hey, I heard you tell me that you got denied for SNAP. Here's somebody who might be able to help you explore that more or make the phone calls. And really educating students on, hey, you've applied, but you have to answer that interview phone call. Like they only try so many times. And if you miss that, you can miss out on the opportunity. And knowing and having the knowledge to say to students, hey, I know you're waiting for this. And just so you know, like they do have up to 30 days to get you an answer. Some counties move faster and some move sooner, but really it's that 30-day timeline. And then working with our campus partners. So we partner with Farnham Family Services to help students who need some brief intervention counseling around substance use or just lifestyle changes. And so bringing them in and really marketing that to all students that, hey, this is here for you. And then having, tapping in and having that list of local community resources and supports handy. So for us, we partner a lot with Helio Health, who has a 24-hour mental health walk-in clinic and substance use clinic that's meant to be an alternative to a psychiatric emergency room. So for those students who are like, I'm struggling and I don't know what to do, knowing that that resource is there, or knowing that the community action program has free diapers available to students who maybe have children under the age of 2 or 3 that need diapers. And so just having those resources handy and really advertising them and marketing them. And it can be kind of overwhelming and exhausting at first to create this knowledge base, but that knowledge base is so valuable as time moves on, because you then have a connection and you have people that you can go to and say, hey, I need help with this. And if they don't have the answer, they're going to be able to find somebody that does. And it really helps those students feel like they belong, feel like they're being heard and supported. Carmela, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, thank you. Do you want to talk about just quickly Jeremy's role as a housing and stability coordinator?
Sure. So we also, we partner with our people on campus. So our director of our wellness center happens to also be the homelessness liaison for Cayuga County. And so we keep that line of communication open and we're able to work together to find those resources. We have an exhaustive list of people that have apartments available if students are experiencing homelessness, or shelters or various mental health respite facilities that students can refer to. And we really take it as a tag team effort here. And we try to educate each other. And that is really beautiful because we recognize that, a student might not know to walk into the wellness center and that these resources are available. But they might know to come to whoever their trusted advisor is or their trusted adult is on campus. And really establishing those relationships to have that warm handoff is so important, and having that collaborative approach.
I'm going to say a couple more things, Jayna, before we go to the next slide, just about from some of the comments I've read. So first of all, somebody asked in the chat about the workshops that we offer and do we require it? So ASAP has a program component that students should have 2 workshops in each semester. And we do everything in our power to make that easy on the student. And earlier I mentioned that we essentially have 3 campuses. So we have our Fulton location, our Auburn location, and then this online community. For almost every program that we do, we offer that online to students. So that really touches on this adult learner community where we see heavy online attendance. And it is part of the challenge of what we do, because when you think of planning an event and hoping to get people there, then you have to do it on essentially 3 campuses. Speaking about online workshops, I think that we've had really good success getting students to open up on those. And I just think it's our tone and approach. We've all been on Zooms or in classes online where nobody wants to talk, nobody wants to come off camera. We've gone back and forth with requiring students to be on camera. I don't know what's going on with Lisa's screen, but it's flashing. So let me just move this up. Okay, so we've gone back and forth with requiring students to be on camera, and then we've also not required it because we know students can't always do that. They might not want to share what their home environment looks like with a group of effectively strangers at the beginning of the semester. But that's one thing we're working on, just to make everything available online in the same way a student would experience it on campus. And we've gotten into some very open discussions where students have opened up their hearts and shared challenges. And we try to make that part of each conversation. Students, what are your challenges right now? And for our adult learner community in particular, they seem to have enjoyed the chance to have someone to talk to. When you're taking asynchronous online classes, you're doing a lot of this on your own, and you don't have those same connection opportunities. And then someone else on the chat earlier asked about, are there organizations on campus for kind of adult learners? We don't have something specific. We're just getting students to be part of what we have on campus, and Jayna's going to go into that in a moment. But I have a question for, and I hate to put you on the spot, but somebody from Monroe Community College, Tayakim, did I say that right?
Tykeem, yeah.
Hi, you're so close. Hi, you're so close by to us.
Yeah.
But you commented that one of the challenges is getting to students, adult learners, to know that there are academics supports or accessibility resources support. Do you find that students don't think that at their age, there are disability supports?
Yeah.
Is that the
So
challenge?
yeah. So I some of the students that probably like our incoming students, and they may have had for example, like a IEP in high school, and they probably, after high school, they went into the workforce, and then they're coming back to college. And so they may notice that this is, something that they they may not even know that they can get accommodations for,
Yes.
for example, like an IEP that they had in high school. And sometimes students, say if they had they had a few semesters that they kind of struggled a little bit, and then they come back, and so it's like they're noticing that, okay, they're having this challenge, but then again, it's just kind of making them aware that, okay, yes, we have the disability services, and we can get you accommodations. And yeah, so I guess just
Yeah.
to sum it all up, it's just that awareness. Yeah.
Yes, we see the same thing,
Yeah.
that I feel like there's this turnoff after the IEP in high school, and then students don't understand that as in higher education, they can also receive benefits, whether
Yeah.
or not they had the IEP, but it's just a little bit of a like lack of understanding. And then
Mhm.
there's the stigma of we have wonderfully welcoming people in our accessibility resources team, but we'll offer to walk students down there. But sometimes there's the stigma, like, do I
Yeah.
want to start off with this? Do I want to enter back into this level of support?
Right.
Do you see that?
Yeah. So I definitely agree with the stigma. Even just like for example, like sometimes we'll go and share in classrooms, like so as a success coach, one of the extra things we do is like kind of share like different resources that are available to students. And yes, and one thing I do notice is there can be like that stigma of just how it may look of
Mhm.
just even asking for help or something like
Yeah.
that, and just being in that vulnerable place. And that's why it was mentioned in the slide earlier, just kind of what was it, mitigate the stigma surrounding them. And so it's just, I think that's just kind of making it normalizing, like, okay, it's fine, like, and so I
Yes.
definitely agree.
That's our biggest tool. I mean, we just try to be friendly and really encouraging and talk about maybe our own experiences with
Yeah.
similar supports and normalize. Someone mentioned the rising mental health issues. I mean, that's Jayna mentioned that. That is an everyday discussion with some of our students, and some of our students have the proper diagnosis, have the proper medications. Others don't. Others are back and forth with challenges, and I just think the world we live in post-COVID and with everything going on in the world, it's like it's a big piece of the puzzle. And Jayna, maybe you can talk as far as one more thing about the recent search for those services through Jeremy's team before you go on.
Sure. So at Cayuga, we're constantly evaluating the student needs. And so, we've noticed that there is a stronger surge in our core wellness team of two, for all of our learners um, you know, can't support everyone. And so that's kind of the beauty of working at a small campus like Cayuga, is that we can kind of bring the evidence back to say, hey, this is what our students are saying, and this is what we're seeing to help facilitate that change. And I smile because I kind of end up being the squeaky wheel sometimes of asking the questions and not being afraid to say, hey, I noticed this. What are we proactively doing on campus to support these students? Or what resources might we have available? Or what does this look like? And so one of the things that we've recently done is we've created a search committee to find an additional counseling resource that will help mitigate that stigma of accessing the wellness center. That is, and some campuses have it, but that is a third-party resource that's available to students on their own time and adult learners on their own time. So it can be a part-time student, and it can be a student who's online or on the Auburn campus, and canvassing and selecting those, what agency the college felt best. And so those resources are really important. And just my students tell me all the time, oh, you're going to tell me about this service again. Yes, you're right. I am. I'm going to keep reminding you that it's there, because you never know if and when you're going to need it. And so that really plays into our engagement strategies. So taking that holistic approach to advising, and looking at the whole student. If they're hungry, if they're thirsty, if they didn't get a good night's sleep, they're not going to be able to show up and learn that material. And if you are working from home, or you have children at home and you're trying to take asynchronous classes as an adult learner, I think sometimes we forget that there's all these distractions, and we have to support and teach students, how do you manage your environment? How do you manage distractions? We have to go back to the root and teach some of those executive functioning skills. And so that's where CCC does a really great job at partnering with the Learning Commons team, who every single semester at the start of the semester runs workshops on study skills, on time management. And those English specialists and math specialists, they're faculty here, and they are more than willing to meet with any student about any unique needs that they have. And so we really work with that. And because we bring them around so much, and because we integrate them in our programming, it helps build that trust and build that relationship. And then we acknowledge strengths. I always tell students, thank you for sharing that concern with me. That took a lot, and let me help you. And changing that narrative to, it's not something that's wrong with you, or it's not a deficit or something that you're doing wrong. it's an opportunity for growth. And in turn, telling me this, you're helping me help you and help you get the supports that you need to be successful and foster that success within you. There's a theory called one trusted adult, right? And so creating those connections and having that person on campus that you feel connected to, that you know supports you, whether it's your academic advisor, whether it's your success coach, a professor, having those connections really cultivates that sense of belonging. And it can be hard with adult learners, especially in the asynchronous environment. So really intentionally sending out those messages to students to say, hey, I'm just checking in. How are you doing? How are you making out with your classes? Is there anything that you need help with? I want to remind you of X, Y, and Z supports. And really, sometimes it might feel like a nuisance, but really just continuing putting it out there, because you never know when that
Yeah.
student is going to bite.
You get a
and I-
lot of, by those check-ins, you get a lot of engagement and like, oh, I have this question. Thanks for stopping in. So, Jayna, I want to save a few minutes for other campuses to answer one final question, but can you tell us about some of the clubs and organizations? We have this, it's not too late for student engagement, even as an adult learner. What have some of our students here gotten involved in?
So some of our students here really have gotten involved in any club that we offer. So most of the time, our club meetings, if they're not in person, they also have an online component. So we have a club that is Come As You Are. We have veterans organization clubs. We have obviously our student government and things like that. And so really, one of the things that Cayuga does super well is if we have an in-person thing, we really try to have an online version of that, or some way to make it online to pull in those people that may not have the physical opportunity to connect, to at least get them that virtual piece to connect.
And sometimes you can find an in-person event that online only students will come to. So we worked with SUNY Oswego because where there is ASAP at community colleges, there are ACE programs at four-year schools, and that group hosted us. And so we took several online learners, and almost all of them were adult, non-traditional students. They met in person and they all had something in common. They all wanted to go continue at SUNY Oswego, and the walls just dropped down. So that was really cool. We found something they had in common, and we were doing it for a purpose anyway, and it worked out well. So with that, I would just ask, and thank you so much, Jayna, for sharing all of that about our techniques. But I guess I would just ask, what is working at your campuses? And if others would go ahead, if you want to take yourselves off mute, since we only have 5 minutes left, if you want to share what have you really seen work. I did see a note from Brenda and Anita about the challenge of getting adult learners who do go online to be able to do internships if they're working full-time. I don't have a solution to that. It's one of the challenges and we don't have that for many programs, but I hear you.
But we do have a unique program at Cayuga, and I'm gonna piggyback that. So for our human services people, or our people who have internships, our career counselor coordinator has worked to secure funding that students are eligible for during their internship. And so this funding can help offset the cost of either childcare, gas, or it allows students to be paid a certain rate for their internship if they go through us. And so that's one of the ways that it helps to engage our adult learners, because they went after that grant and were able to get that money to help offset the costs if the students are able to go through that, so that they're not completely losing income totally.
We can get the name of that grant and share it when we share the presentation shortly. So yes, any campuses, if you'd like to share what's worked well for you, we'd love to hear some thoughts.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerome, I'm the director of the ASAP program at SUNY Suffolk. And so we're also a multi-campus institution. So I was happy to hear you share some of your experiences with that. What also helps us, adding on to the workshops, is the peer-to-peer support. And so the workshops allow for students who have similar characteristics or similar challenges to connect with one another. So we've seen it where students will just have organically exchanged numbers. And so where if a student doesn't want to text me at 10 o'clock at night, which they shouldn't and won't anyway, because they don't have the number, they can at least contact their peer. And if between the two of them, they don't have the answer, then they can reach out to us during, you know, our traditional hours. But I found that the peer-to-peer support, particularly for our students who are parents, have been incredibly helpful as well
That's
too.
amazing. We are gonna ask you more questions about that and steal shamelessly from that idea.
Sure,
Okay. Thank you.
no problem.
So how many students do you think you have participating in that?
Who have exchanged numbers with one
Yeah.
another? In pairings, it's difficult to guess.
Okay,
It's difficult to say, but what I will give you an example is we all had the video shoot, the photo shoot for SUNY a couple of weeks ago that they wanted the footage. And so within there, we
yeah.
had about 10 students who just, by nature, not necessarily knowing each other, they might be on the same campus, but they might see each other in passing and not realizing that they're both in the ASAP program. But those workshops allow them to form those connections with individuals who, again, are in the same, in many cases, have the same experiences as them, but also within the same program as well, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And also work study too. I'm looking at the chat as well too. Work study. Someone's talking about grants, but also work study has been helpful as well too, for those who qualify for it.
Well, we're coming right up on time. So I just want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Carmela and Jayna and the Cayuga team for sharing more about the adult learner engagement experience, and tons of information in the chat as well. Sounds like we all have some similar experiences and challenges, and just look forward to using this community of practice to help to form a network so that we can communicate across campuses and try to solve challenges together. Just want to thank Carmela and Jayna yet again for participating. And as a reminder, we have a session on student basic needs support, including closing the SNAP gap on March 5th. And then we have a session on proactive advising on April 23rd. So I encourage you to join if you can. And of course, these are recorded, but thank you all for attending, for your engagement. And again, for our presenters for taking the time to tell us more about the great work they're doing. So have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.